The jobs report. Here's the headline number. 227,000 jobs created in the month of January. Come on in, please. Paul Conway, former Labour Department Chief of Staff. I want you to look forward, Paul, for a second. We're going to reform and replace Obamacare. I think that that's going to be very good news for the creation of full-time jobs in America, because all this part-time stuff was the creation largely of Obamacare. Get rid of that, and maybe we'll get full-time jobs. What do you say?
I think you're putting a finger on the same thing that small business, corporate leaders, and even the Federal Reserve pointed to several years ago. In the Federal Reserve's Beige Report about 3 or 4 years ago, you actually had Federal Reserve Board members pointing to Obamacare as a source of the suppression of full-time jobs. So I think the president has listened to this. He's going to push Congress for immediate reforms on ACA, and I think that those things that businesses have identified as being a suppressor, meaning the ACA, will, once that's pulled back, result in more interest and greater enthusiasm for full-time, meaningful jobs.
Now, we dug into the numbers a little bit, and we found an increase in mining jobs, an increase in manufacturing jobs, and an increase in construction jobs, all of them relatively well-paid full-time jobs. Has that got anything to do? Now, this was the month of January. Do you think that has something to do with the outlook for growth in the economy?
Sure. I think what you're seeing is optimism reflected at the close of the election. It was very clear that you have a new chief executive coming in that has a vision about opportunity and putting people to work in full-time, meaningful jobs in those sectors which, to be honest with you, over the past 8 years have been frowned on or criticized, especially in the mining field and in other areas in terms of energy. Yeah. So I think what you're going to see is you're actually going to see the optimism captured by leadership and the president translating American aspiration into a structure, a policy, and a strategy that creates full-time jobs. I think he's committed to it, and he's going to bring Congress along with him.
I would like to see, in the relatively near future, and by that I mean 6 to 8 months, I'd like to see us creating 300,000-400,000 full-time jobs a month. Do you think we're going to get there? And I'm talking about 6 to 9 months' time.
I think we will, and I tell you what, there's precedent for this. If you go back and take a look at President Reagan, when he put his cabinet and his team and his policy together, it was a consistency and a coherence that people understood. I think when you look back over the past 8 years, and not questioning the motive, but you had a disparate set of interests. You wanted to regulate the economy. You wanted to label some industries as not good. You wanted to restructure things. That's where the White House is coming from. This White House is going to be fundamentally different. It's 13 days in, 13 days and 23 and a half hours. And what he's already done is he's laid out, these are the personnel that I want, this is the strategy, these are the tactics, and this is how I'm going to go about it in terms of policy. ACA, Dodd-Frank, freezing government growth, and reducing regulation. That, I think, is the key in the strategy to seeing the full-time job growth.
You're right, Paul. You just reminded me of something. In 21 minutes' time, he will have been the president for 2 weeks. 14 days.
Feels a lot
20, I mean, doesn't it feels like 14 months. I mean, it really does. We love it, but, you know, it does seem like much longer than 14 days. Paul Conway, thank you very much, sir. We'll see you again real soon.